Hey guys, Pro1701 here, and today we are going to talk about three classic Who villains that have been done really well in the modern series. Now, recently I just did a video where I talked about three classic Doctor Who villains who have not been done justice in the classic series. A link to that video is down below if you want to check it out. Today we're going to talk about three villains that have been done justice in the modern Doctor Who series, starting off with the Great Intelligence. Now, the Great Intelligence was in the classic series and went up against the second Doctor twice in The Abominable Snowman and Web of Fear, which are both highly regarded stories. I haven't seen The Abominable Snowman because only one episode of it exists. It was a six-parter. I have seen most of Web of Fear. It's a six-parter. Episode 3 is still missing, and I'm very much looking forward to the special edition of it coming out. But it's really good. The Great Intelligence is neat because it doesn't really have a physical form for most of the story, so it's just kind of this looming threat in the background, which I find really interesting. You never quite know where it is. It's not tangible, but you know it's deadly. It mostly uses the Yeti to do its work for it. And again, both of those are well-regarded stories. But I really liked when the Great Intelligence showed back up in the modern series, first in the Christmas special The Snowman, and then later in Name of the Doctor, and I like him in both of these appearances. I really like basically seeing his origin in The Snowman is really well, because I didn't see it coming. I didn't see that basically, he was created from Dr. Simeon and then became stronger than his creator and kind of took over and was pulling Simeon strings like a puppet. That's the idea of someone creating something and then basically becomes dominated by it. It's fascinating. I find that very interesting, to becoming a slave to your own creation. Something about that is just it's unnerving but also fascinating. So I really like that episode, especially at the end when you see him in the ball with the snow swirling around, with that deep voice, finding out his origin, seeing him take over Simeon's body after he dies and try to kill the Doctor. It was really nice. Like I said, I was familiar with the Great Intelligence, but I had never even seen the Web of Fear at that time, so I'd never seen any stories with it. I was simply familiar with what it was. So to see it pop up was pretty neat in the modern series, and I enjoy its take in that. And plus, I like having Richard E. Grant playing him in both episodes, especially in Name of the Doctor, because he portrays him so well. Plus, Richard E. Grant was, before the new series, kind of the official Ninth Doctor from the Scream of Shaka story. So to bring him back into the canon this way in the modern series is nice, just to have him play a part. Plus, I think Dr. Simeon, I think it was a Doctor, so he's still technically a Doctor in Doctor Who canon. That's kind of nice, even if he's not the Doctor. But I really liked him in Name of the Doctor. He's a credible threat. I like the fact that he seems to have gotten much more powerful, possibly by some of the stuff we see in the Bells of St. John, because he is briefly at the end of the Bells of St. John. He's kind of the mastermind behind that, pulling the strings. And I think all of the power he absorbed through all the stuff he had been doing there is why he's so powerful in Name of the Doctor. I like the idea of the Whisper Men. They're creepy and neat. So yeah, I actually think the Great Intelligence has been done really well in the modern series. I know not everybody agrees, but I personally like him. Number 2 on the list is the Ice Warriors. I really like the Ice Warriors. The Ice Warriors, even in Classic Who, were never used a lot. And this works actually in their favor in some ways, because they don't really have a bad story. I mean, my least favorite is probably their first story, the Ice Warriors. I think it's too long. I think it's a little boring in places. I find Victoria kind of bothersome in it. But it is a very watchable story, and I do enjoy it. And then the Seeds of Death is really good, also with the second Doctor. The Curse of Peladon is really good with the third Doctor. And I haven't seen Monsters of Peladon. I'm actually looking forward to the Season 11 box set coming out so I can see Monsters of Peladon. But then they never really showed back up in Classic Who. So to see them come back in Cold War was really nice. Now, I enjoy Cold War. I've talked before on the channel about how I actually really enjoy Season 7B a lot. There's only a couple really duds in it for me. I enjoy most of that run. And Cold War is really good. It's set in the 80s during the Cold War. I love the fact it's in a submarine, so it's very claustrophobic. Once the Ice Warrior gets out, these cramped, narrow quarters give him a lot of room, and it gives a very tense atmosphere very claustrophobic setting, which I enjoy. It has David Warner in it. I like David Warner. It's always a plus. Nice to bring him into the Doctor Who lore. Even though I know he's in some of the Big Finish stuff as an alternate Doctor. I also like that it gives a good reason for... I like how it retcons the Ice Warriors' armor into being actual armor that they can come out of. Because their costumes do look kind of campy and silly by today's standards. And so a way to bring them into the modern series is they did retcon that to be armor they wear that they can take off. It's kind of nice to see him come out of the armor. It's not something I would want to happen a lot, but just kind of, you know, as a one-time thing, I'm for. Maybe they could do it again eventually, like 10 years from now. I wouldn't mind, but I wouldn't want it to happen a lot. But it's done really well. I like that the Doctor respects the Ice Warrior, you know, and kind of communicates to him in his own little honor code. That's pretty neat. I like that we get to see the Doctor use his red setting in it. That's pretty neat because he, you know, I don't think I realized that his sonic screwdriver had a red setting before that, so it's kind of nice to see that the 11th Doctor screwdriver has that. Yeah, I really enjoy this one. Clara's actually pretty nice in this one. I usually don't like Clara, but with Matt, I think she was alright. She's very, very good in this one. And then Empress of Mars. I actually really enjoy Empress of Mars, a Series 10 episode. And I enjoy Series 10 for the most part. I like Series 10 Capaldi much more than Series 8 and 9 Capaldi. I really like Bill as a companion. And I enjoy this episode. Again, I like the Ice Warriors in this because they do kind of have their own form of honor and stuff, which I really like. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy Empress of Mars. Kind of paints the soldiers as the bad guys and the Ice Warriors as the not necessarily bad guys. I kind of enjoy that, as it is the soldiers' greed that gets most of them killed. So yeah, I feel like the Ice Warriors have done really well in the modern series in the 2 episodes they've been in. And last but not least is the Autons, another classic Who villain. I really like the Autons. Spearhead from Space is such a fantastic episode just in its own right, but it's also one of the best post-regeneration stories, objectively and subjectively. Really, really good. And just the idea of the Autons is really well thought out. I really like how Doctor Who is so good at taking something ordinary in everyday life and making it scary, such as the statues in Blink, the shadows in the library 2-parter, you know, just everyday life stuff and making it scary. And in this case with the Autons, it's, well, one, plastic in general, but, you know, like mall store dummies and stuff like that. Because mannequins very much are these things that look almost human but not quite human. There's something about something that's almost human but not quite that's very unnerving. The statues in Blink are another perfect example of that. Or in my case, I've talked before about how I don't like watching The Unquiet Dead, because even though it is a good episode, the way the actors portray the zombies, as you can tell, they're not people. They're something driving a corpse, basically. And it shows, and it's very unnerving. Same thing with the human nature 2-parter in Family of Blood. When the aliens possess the people, the way the actors have them move in mannerisms that aren't human at all. Like, I don't even think they blink. It's very unnerving. And as people, we just subconsciously register this, that, okay, something's off here. And it can make you a little tense. And again, mannequins do that a lot as well. And the Autons do a good job of that pretty much in Spearhead and in Terror of the Autons. I enjoy Terror of the Autons a lot as well. I don't think it's quite as good as Spearhead, but it's still really good. Great introduction for the Master, with the Autons still playing a nice, huge role in it, and having a lot of twists and turns that I enjoy. And that's really all I think we saw of the Autons in Classic Who that I can remember. And then they showed back up in Rose. I love the fact that they brought a Classic Who villain back for Rose, but not like one of the big villains, not the Daleks, not the Cybermen. They weren't trying to overload people. They got a villain that that Classic Who fans are going to be like, hey, I know those, or I think I remember those. Some cases, or weren't they in Classic Who? You know, they're not super well known, but for the diehard fans, they can be like, be like Captain America. I get that reference. So, and they're really good in this too. I like the slow build. You know, first you kind of see the mannequins attack Rose, and then the whole bit with the hand, which is actually pretty funny. when he's getting strangled and she doesn't notice. Seeing the nesting consciousness, which is really well realized in Rose. I like the way it looks, like the plastic lava is really, really neat. When all of the mannequins cut loose and you see the little hand drop, I was like, ah, there it is. Even though the guns don't look quite right. They don't, I guess because the barrel doesn't come out, it's always bugged me they don't look quite right. But they're really, really good in Rose. Rose is a very good first episode. It does a lot like Spearhead. It kicks off a whole new era of the show, introduces people to a new doctor, new companions. Those two episodes have a lot in common. And the Autons do a great job in both of them. And then they also come back, I think they're briefly in Love and Monsters. I'm not going to count that because it's very brief. Then they come back in the Big Bang two-parter. And I love how they're used here because they're not really the main villains. But the way they're used to set a trap is really, really nice, because I didn't even see it coming because they look very, they look realistic in this one. Whereas the Roman soldiers and stuff, I never saw that coming. It's not until when everything starts to go south, I feel like the Doctor's won. He's made them back off with his really good speech. And then suddenly they start kind of waking up as sleep, they're sleeper agents. They don't know they're sleeper agents, but they kind of start waking up to their programming. It's not until I saw the hands come out and drop and those very familiar looking gun barrels come out. And I was like, oh, the Autons. And you see Auton Rory struggling with it. So much of Rory is built into this Auton. And the whole him being an Auton Roman soldier really plays into his character and his story and bringing them together, since he does end up protecting the Pandorica for thousands of years. That's really, really neat. But I love how, you're sitting there, once you see everything going down, you're like, it's a trap! I just had to throw that in. But even though the Autons aren't used traditionally as the main villains going around killing everything, like you expect, the fact that they're used as bait for the trap that the Doctor never suspects, the way they're used here is really well done. Very unexpected. Caught me off guard. And I absolutely loved it. So yeah, the Autons have been done justice really, really well in Modern Who. Now, the one thing I will point out is that all three of these I have mentioned have very few episodes in Modern Who, which may work to their advantage. I think part of the problem with, say, the Cybermen and the Daleks is that they're way overused. Way overused. They show up way too often. And because of this, they get pretty much watered down to where they're just not interesting anymore. Or you have to do something drastic to make them interesting again, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Even in classic Who, there were long stretches where you didn't see these villains. Tom Baker's Doctor only fought the Daleks twice. He only fought the Cybermen once. Literally, I think we had Revenge of the Cyberman in 1975. We didn't have another Cyberman story until 1983. 8 years. Classic Who, Modern Who, they can't do that. It's like they got to bring the Cyberman back every season, every other season. And they don't do a good job of it. Whereas in the three I've named today, the Great Intelligence, 2 episodes basically. I know he shows up briefly in Bells of St. John. You have the Autons, 2 episodes. And then you have the Ice Warriors, 2 episodes. Since they're not overused, the episodes they are in, first of all, the episodes they are in are done really well. But you don't run the risk of, the more episodes you do, the more you run the risk of a bad episode. And they just haven't ran into that yet. I'm perfectly fine with the Ice Warriors coming back. I'm perfectly fine with the Great Intelligence coming back somehow. I'm perfectly fine. I really want the Autons to come back. If it's done well, I would love to see the Autons again. I think they're a fantastic villain. So what do you think? Are there any classic Who villains that have been in the new series that I just haven't thought of that you think have or haven't been done justice in the modern Doctor Who series? Comment down below. I